It's the Jack and Nick Horror Show.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to your once-in-a-while scheduled podcast, I guess we could call it, because it's not weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. It just appears every now and then, like some sort of forgotten moon. Welcome to the Forgotten Moon episode of the Jack and Nick Horror Show, where we discuss horror movies just because we don't know what else to do with our pathetic lives. I'm Nick. This is Jack.
I'm Jack. Wait a minute, you're both? That'll be interesting. Why don't you do a Jack and Nick show as both of us?
Wow, I could do that. The Jack and Nick show. Or I could be Jack and Nick and you could just be Jack.
I'll just be Jack, yeah.
Okay. I don't even know how to do that. So, what movie are we discussing this week?
Various.
Oh, Various.
Yeah.
It's one of those episodes.
No, it's the movie Various. You watched it, right?
That's a movie? Is it really a movie?
No.
Oh. Well, I kind of did. Well, I'll tell you about that a little bit later on. First up tonight, we are going to be discussing what we're calling our Forgettables. The movies we've seen that you can't even remember you saw it, and then you see like a box cover of it one day, and you're like, did I see this movie? Why can't I remember this movie? It's a strange phenomenon. You've been through it. I've been through it. We're going to talk about it. And we asked out for our, we reached out, I should say, for our, readers and listeners, whatever you are, to write in and say, hey, I had a movie that I completely forgot I saw, and this is what happened. We'll tell some stories. Storytelling episode. And then after that, me and Jack are going to shoot the shit about the stuff we've been missing, talking to each other about, because every time that we talk, we're pretty much having a goddamn podcast, and we were like, no, we have to stop talking on the phone, just record this and put it out there for the people to hear.
Because they need to hear it. Or read it, since, our show is transcribed for those that like to read our show.
Is it?
No.
Oh, well, I guess if you go to our YouTube page, maybe we could turn on the automatic captioning and we could just read the funny sentences that it thinks we're saying.
That would be great.
Mm.
My iPhone's voicemail does that now.
Really?
Yeah, it'll transcribe what the voicemail is before I listen to it.
Yeah, I think I could do that on my phone too, but the only person who leaves me voicemails is you. And my mom.
I don't know if it can transcribe my voice. Okay.
Every time you leave me a voicemail, it's like miserable, like, Nick, it's Jack. I gotta tell you about this. These people are trying to kill me, and I don't know.
They're fucking trying to kill me.
But I promise we'll record soon.
I do. I'm serious.
See, I could be the Jack and Nick show on my own.
That's why I like horror so much. I live it every day. All right. Let's do this shit. What are we doing?
Talking about forgotten movies in Forgettables.
That was the setup. I forgot. Okay, here we go.
Oh, that was actually clever.
All right, so not long ago, there was a movie that came up in my head. It was just like one of those random thoughts where you think about a movie that you had seen or you forgot you saw, and you're like, gee, whatever happened to that? And then this whole thing spawned from that little attitude. The movie that came to my head, Nick, was S&M Man, or Sandman. Remember that movie?
Ampersand in the middle.
Sandman. That's a movie nobody talks about at all.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, that is one that... there's a lot of movies that came out between, I'm going to say 2008 and 2012 that completely no one talks about anymore. No one.
And I'm wondering, with the resurgence of, a lot of, 1980 or 1990s movies that existed before, they're getting, or even 70s, 60s, whatever, they're getting, refurbed, remastered, put on Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. People are jacking it to a lot of these movies that a lot of them are terrible, but they're acting like this is the movie they've been waiting for their entire lives. I don't think that's going to happen with Sandman. I really don't think so. Not that it's a terrible movie. It's just one of those that I know you and I have talked about it before.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about it since, and nobody ever says, oh yeah, I like Sandman or Sandman. Nobody.
Right. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. One of them is the onset of like on demand has come a long way in just a couple of years. If you consider like what you were watching digitally in 2008 versus what you're watching digitally now, like you're probably watching most of your movies digitally these days. Through streaming services or individually on demand, or if you're someone who's a rotten pirate downloading all your movies illegally. Horrible people. Don't you know that affects people's lives? Not really.
It does, really. But...
Well, no, on an independent level, it absolutely does, but not if you're like, go ahead and steal Transformers. But then again, why are you wasting time stealing Transformers? You ain't got nothing better to do with your life than watch Transformers.
And the problem is that people that make Transformers and own Transformers have enough money to find the people that are stealing the movies.
Right. Yeah. So really, it's just easier to just get a movie anyway. But yeah, like, and especially because independent movies, if they're good, now they're coming out in theaters. Like a hell of a lot more people are going to remember movies like It Follows, The Witch, Get Out than the movies from like just 5 years ago. Stuff like VHS that pretty much fell through the cracks. Even though VHS is a wonderful horror movie, one of my favorites, and it just kind of fell through the memory hole here where it came out when streaming was not as big, so it wasn't as easy to get those indie titles. I shouldn't say as easy, but they didn't have the level of awareness that a movie would get now. I don't know. It's like the model of delivery for horror movies has changed a lot, is basically my point.
Right. And a lot of these movies that we're going to be mentioning, both from the listeners and ourselves, they fall into different categories. Like you'll have a movie that you remember after the title comes to you. Like if I say a title, you might go, oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. And then this is what happens. Or it might be the category where you know the title, but you can't remember a thing about the movie. Or it might be, did I ever see that at all?
Right. Now, so S&M Man, you saw it. Did you remember anything about the movie before I tell the people what that movie is?
I just remember that one of my Facebook friends is in it, and she's naked, like, throughout a whole bunch of the movie. Because she's, like, the quote-unquote scream queen that does conventions.
Right. So this movie was basically... this movie... we've talked before about horror movies being made with that horror convention fan mentality. This is definitely one of them. It is a mockumentary that also serves as a documentary about independent horror. And it basically, the filmmakers are going from horror conventions, talking to people about low-level horror and its relation to possible snuff films and stuff like that. And then they keep seeing this one guy at all the conventions they're going to, and he sells them movies out of his backpack that he says he made himself. And it turns out that he is just torturing and killing girls in his basement. And those are the movies. And it's a kind of a found footage movie on top of the fact that it's a mockumentary. And they really do interview real like Z-level horror guys like Bill Zabub and the August Underground guys whose names I can't recall. Oh my God, Forgettables! I can't remember who made August Underground. Toe Tag Pictures.
And I remember Fred Vogel.
That's it. I knew it was something with like a couple of vowels in it, if that makes sense. But it's not a very...
Those are movies that you and I have gotten into heated arguments about on our previous show.
Right. And
even, we're still doing a show. Nick and I still care about each other.
Right.
We don't let that shit bother us. But go on.
S&M Man, though, man, that movie did not particularly age well in a way that I could ever recommend it to anyone. Like, I feel like, all right, found footage has come a long way, and stuff like that just...
I thought it was an interesting take on it. It just... When I saw it, it was one of those movies where it just went into the wrong areas when it didn't need to. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, the naked girl. Like, there was no need for that. It didn't move the plot forward at all.
Right.
It was like, hey, let's see if we can show some vagina on in this movie.
You see, with S&M Man though, for your first forgettable movie, I actually had the same idea for this segment, but like a little bit different. But it
Oh, we
all
have
came about.
Half
But,
naked
like,
woman on this thing.
no, not half naked women movies. That'd be a long
No,
segment.
no, a naked woman podcast. Like we're just doing this, and then all of a sudden, you hear a woman's voice, and she just says that she's naked, and then
Right.
yeah,
We get a lot more downloads. A lot.
okay, hang on, keep talking. I'll go get one.
No, please. The movie that this like whole segment made me like think, oh man, I could do a whole segment on this type of nonsense. I saw a tweet on Twitter, and you know those ones that's like retweet this tweet and you can win this movie or video game or whatever. This tweet said completely randomly, retweet this tweet to win a copy of Lucky McGee's All Cheerleaders Die.
Oh yeah, that does exist, doesn't it?
And not only does it exist, it came out years ago, and we watched it.
Yeah.
I didn't remember. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, is that his new movie? Is that finally coming out? I remember hearing about it a while. Wait a minute.
No, we watched it.
I totally watched that movie. And then I was like, but what the hell was it? Were there cheerleaders? There must have been cheerleaders. They must die.
That was the problem with the movie. It was like the Bad Kids Go to Hell kind of movie where...
Dude, that's another... Hang on with Bad Kids Go to Hell, because, okay, I watched that movie. I hear this movie, and it's bugging me for like a day. I can't remember it. So I sit down on YouTube, and I watch the trailer, and I go, oh, this fucking movie. You know? And then I saw the other day that last year... I actually saw this about a month ago. I saw that last year a sequel to Bad Kids Go to Hell comes out. It came out, and I was like, a sequel?
A sequel?
To some movie that I remember the name of? Did I see this fucking thing? And I did. I saw it years ago, like 5 years ago.
They made a sequel to that?
There's a sequel. I forget the name of the sequel because it's a forgettable movie. But it's amazing that these movies I spent over an hour with, I can't remember at all. And yeah, there's a sequel that came out. I forgot to tell you about it in our regular phone calls where we bitch about things that should not exist.
Wow.
Bad Kids Go to Hell sequel. Let's see what it's called.
Oof.
It's called The Bad Kids of Crestview Academy. Oh, and it comes out this year, it says. But it was originally known as Bad Kids Go to Hell with a 2 in it. But it is The Bad Kids of Crestwood Academy. Now, that movie also sucked, but it had choice nudity. Just saying.
Yeah, the other one didn't.
Bad Kids Go to Hell. So those are 2 movies on my list already that we just knocked out right here. It's amazing. So you didn't remember Bad Kids Go to Hell? Well,
no,
hang on.
I remembered it.
First, I have to talk about what All Kid Cheerleaders Must Die was.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really stupid movie where all the cheerleaders in it die, and it was kind of supposed to be a throwback movie, but it's just a mess. I don't recommend it to anyone. Also, Bad Kids Go to Hell, just so I can tell you what the plot is, it's kind of like The Breakfast Club, except it's also a horror movie, and it tries to be a comedy, but it's about as unfunny as an NBC sitcom pilot that did not get a full season ordered. That's about how terrible that one is.
And didn't All Cheerleaders Die at the end of it set it up for a sequel that you're never going to see?
Dude, I literally can't remember how that movie ends. I don't know. It's just like that movie was like I don't even remember enough of the plot, and I should have looked it up, I guess, if we were going to have an actual discussion about it.
No, we're not going to have it. No, we'll move forward.
Okay.
There's nothing really to discuss. I mean, I know about the movie, but I couldn't tell you how it all unfolds. I can only remember snippets from it. Mm-hmm. And that's about as far as it goes.
Right. That's like what happens in your brain that makes you forget all of a movie except for like 2 scenes, choice nudity, things like. Well, I mean, the choice nudity, at least that goes into a different part of your brain, I guess.
I have no idea. I mean, there are some movies that I absolutely love. I mean, and this happens with my brain. I'll remember stuff that happens in the movie that I create in my brain. But then when I watch the movie, I'm like, wait a minute, that never happened in this movie.
Right.
And then other times it's something that I loved, and I'm like, oh god, I love this movie, and I watch it again. And one of them will get brought up when we get to the listener movies as well. And it's just something that I remember happening in a movie, and then ever since I've watched it, it didn't happen that way. And I don't know, man. I got some though. I got some.
Yeah, what's another one you got?
All right, here we go. You might shit yourself here with some of these names. Okay, Dark Skies.
Okay, I can tell you what that one is because that one's one of those things that traumatized me.
Yeah.
Do you need me to tell you about it, or do you want to tell me the circumstances under which you forgot it?
No, I remembered watch. It's one of those that fall into the category that it's a movie that I haven't thought about at all. Mm-hmm. Unless like Kerry Russell gets brought up.
Right. See, for me, I know that movie is a movie about where a nice little suburban white family gets terrorized by gray aliens, and I can't deal with gray aliens. So I remember the fear I felt in the theater watching that, even though it wasn't a particularly scary movie. I just can't look at gray aliens, possibly because I was abducted or I'm insane. You can listen on our back episodes where I probably tell too many stories about that, but I can't deal with looking at the faces of gray aliens. It's just too much for me. So if you want to horrify me, go ahead. Send me a picture of an alien, and I will just firebomb your house.
And keep in mind, a lot of these are movies that both Nick and I have seen from the previous show that we did.
And then because we see every fucking horror movie, no matter what, we eventually catch up on most of these movies that come out.
All right. Get ready. I got more.
Yes. I'm almost...
This one falls into the category of one you don't want to remember that you saw. But you still forget that you haven't thought about this movie for probably... I'm gonna take a guess of 4 years. The Dead.
You know what's funny is I actually thought of that one recently, and that is one of those ones that just doesn't come to mind very much. Now, this movie was a zombie movie about white people show up in Africa and save all of the white people there from the African zombies, right? Which at the time, you may recall, I called it horribly racist. Yeah. Well, not a horribly racist. It wasn't intentional, but it was
wasn't the intent.
Weird
right.
White savior ignorance, and it was it reminded me of the same type of controversy that came up with Resident Evil 5. I only thought of that movie recently because I actually just bought Resident Evil 5. It was cheap on Xbox. Don't judge me. But I thought, man, remember when that horrible movie came out? And it was so bad. And that was about 5 years ago. And when it came out, people were talking about it like, oh, this is the new Night of the Living Dead. Zombies are back. I remember all the podcasters going nuts about that movie. Every horror site had reviews up that were like, guys, zombies are back. And it was like, and we were like, what is everybody talking about? This movie is garbage. And hey, you know what? 5 years later, nobody remembers that movie. Nobody remembers that movie came out because you know what? It was garbage. It was garbage. And it has shown after 5 years, and nobody even saw the sequel, which also came out, which was white people go to India and save Indians from themselves or something. I don't know. I didn't actually see that one, but I think that that's what happens. And,
based on the original.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was bad. It was slow. It was boring. And 5 years later, nobody remembers it because it was garbage. And Nick was right. If you just listen to Nick, you'll hear 5 years down the line that those words carried upon the wind. Nick was right.
Speaking of racist, you're nobody till somebody kills you.
Oh, what one is that? Is that the movie? Hold on. I think I know this one. Uh-huh. Is this a movie where it is about rappers and like a law and order cops chasing after rappers? But it's not a Law and Order episode, but it feels like one.
Yeah.
And the rappers are like undead rappers or something.
There was the guy that was dressed in a white mask with a hoodie or something, killing them. Anyway, the other one, Rites of Passage.
Ooh, now that one I do remember just because it was painfully stupid.
Right. But it's like one that if somebody shows you the DVD of it, you'll go, nope.
Right. It's probably on Netflix right now. If it's in your list, remove it from your list because it's a waste of time. It's a movie. I think that movie is about. Is that the one where they have to? It's got a very similar plot to like Children of the Corn, where they have to kill people and sacrifice them so that the corn grows in or something.
No.
Is that? No, that's Rites of Spring.
This is the one with Christian
Oh.
Slater.
I have no idea what this movie is. Did I see it?
Yeah. And you
Really?
actually liked Christian Slater with his doll on his shotgun. Or he had a puppet doll that he was talking to.
What? Did you just make that up?
No.
You could have made that up to fuck
No.
with me.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
So
no.
I saw this movie.
Yeah.
Christian Slater has a shotgun.
Yeah, and he wears like a Australian Outback hat and trench coat.
Okay.
And like plot wise, I can't. At the very end of it, the guy that lives, they go. The very end, they go. What is it? What is it? Oh yeah. And now you've learned your rites of passage.
Oh, so that's why they call it rites of passage.
So bad. It was
Okay.
so bad. I'm almost done. Here's one. I can't remember what happens in the movie. I just remember that guys are bad and the title, Girls Against Boys.
Well, that is actually also the plot. The plot of the movie is men are bad and need to be shot.
Right.
That is it. That movie is patronizing feminism, the horror movie. Like you don't, yeah, and it's boring. Like it's pretty crappy boring. Like there's way better, if you want feminist horror, there's much better horror that like could be recommended from anyone. And that movie was trying so hard. It was like really the white knight of the internet came up with a movie where he wants to say girls are better than boys, the movie. It's like just one of those terribly dumb things. And what happens in it? I think it's a rape revenge movie. Yeah, it was a rape revenge movie where this girl gets raped and the dude who did it, his friends help cover it up, and she just tracks them down and kills them. Except it is a much more terrible movie than any other rape revenge movie that I could name for you off the top of my head. Like I Spit on Your Grave, I Spit on Your Grave 2010, the remake, I Spit on Your Grave 2. Those are all much better movies, much more memorable movies because I could actually tell you about what happens in those. And that's just one series of movies.
I couldn't agree more. I love not love, but yeah,
To
the
say you
remake.
love it.
The remake was so great. It was such a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend people watch
Right.
that if you're not into the griminess of the original.
Well, people ask all the time, like, what's an underrated horror movie you've seen that nobody else has really seen? I'd say that one. That one's one of the underrated movies that have come out the past decade. It's a little dated now, I guess, because it's 7 years on, but still a pretty good one.
It has one of the most chilling, realistic, dirty moments, and it doesn't have. It has rape happening, but it's just you get to find out that one of the characters is talking sweetly to his daughter on the phone whilst the rape is going on in the other room. It's that was like. Check that out. Anyway, okay, two left. Last Days on Mars.
Okay. Was that one? I'm going to take a guess because I think I saw this movie.
Uh-huh.
Last Days on Mars was about. Oh, come on, brain. You were there. Is that the one where there's stuff underneath the icy lakes of Mars?
I can't tell you. Just know Liev Schreiber was in it, and Elias Koteas.
Or is that there was two like Mars movies that came out like in succession, and one of them was like people get stranded on Mars, and one of them was there's stuff underneath. Oh no, the one I'm thinking of is like Europa Report. Europa Report. There's a lake.
I forgot that movie existed too.
See, Forgettables. This is a terrible segment or a perfect segment, depending on how great you think this is.
Maybe people will forget about this segment episodes.
Yeah, exactly. Forget about this show. Delete it. There's a frozen lake on the planet of Europa, and people make it up there. After like a hypersleep travel to Europa, which is the moon of Jupiter or Saturn. One of them, and like there's stuff that lives underneath this lake, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna find some algae, and they go and like whatever they found, I don't know what it was, because it was one of those found footage movies where they don't actually show you what they found in there. I think it was like supposed to be some sort of octopi type thing. Octopi.
That's correct. It's like many clitorises or clitori. Okay, so. Here's the last one, and this one I know you remember, but, and I got all of this, and by the way, if you hear noise, I'm in a basement, so, it's a dehumidifier. Okay, so anyway, alright, so this movie here, I was like, okay, so this movie existed, and I can't remember I see the title, but I couldn't remember the movie at all until it dawned on me. Oh, that's what movie it was. Escape from Tomorrow.
Escape from Tomorrow. I know exactly what that one is.
Right. But like I see the title and I go, was that a science fiction movie where like somebody's on a planet? And then I'm like,
technically both. The planet is Earth.
And then I'm like, oh, that's right. That was the Disney World or Disneyland movie.
Right. It's a movie that was fascinating in how it was made, but not so much in what it's about. It was
and it's another. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
It was filmed in Disney World, but the people, it was completely unauthorized. They had no permission to film it there. They just brought in nice cameras and iPhones and such and filmed their vacation as if it was this horror movie. And that is the only reason why it is notable whatsoever. And the only thing that could have made it a bigger movie was if Disney actually paid attention to it and sued them or tried to stop them. It would have created this whole Streisand effect on it where people would have sought out that movie as like this dirty, unseeable thing. Oh, Disney doesn't want you to see this crazy movie. And it really wasn't a crazy movie. No. And Disney saw that and they said, well, you know what? Let it be, let it exist, and no one will ever look at it. And they were totally right.
Mm-hmm. That's why they are able to buy things like Marvel and Star Wars, because they have smart people running their company.
They were like, what, you think more people are going to watch this than Captain America? Get out of my office.
It's so funny that, there, and I remember talking about the movie during our show then, and how people are like, were dogging Disney at the time. And I'm like, why are you dogging Disney? Like, what did they ever do to you? Like, they make people happy. If you don't like it, go fucking be a miserable shit somewhere else. There's no need for it. But, I don't know. That's just me.
No, there's definitely things that you could get mad at Disney for, but they're one of those companies where people get mad at them for the reasons that they shouldn't. It's the same thing with like you see it with pro wrestling or with horror fans too, that pro wrestling fans, I mean, like where like you get mad, like people are like so attached to the stuff that comes out of these companies that they kind of turn on their masters. I don't know how to describe it, but okay.
Happens, yeah.
With Disney, there was a lot of, oh God, they bought Star Wars. They're going to ruin Star Wars. And then Star Wars came out, and I still contend that it was okay, but people loved it. The Star Wars nerds, they loved it. It was okay.
It was a good movie. I like it.
It was all right.
But I mean, it's like Taylor Swift is a prime example.
Exactly, yeah.
People hate Taylor Swift because she's Taylor Swift, but then she comes out with this album that everybody's like, "Fuck, I like Taylor Swift."
Right.
But
It's this
they're
backlash.
angry about it. Yeah.
Right. It's a backlash at bigness. Or like the way that people for years would use Justin Bieber as a punchline, even though they had no idea what Justin Bieber was. Do you know what I mean? Not that I've ever even heard in my life a Justin Bieber song, because I'm a grown man who does not listen to that type of music.
Right.
And as were most of the people who would make jokes about Justin Bieber, now it's kind of died off. It'll be something else, you know? It's just this backlash of bigness, which is the way that the world works. But anyway, we're getting way off topic. We already forgot the topic that we were supposed to talk about. Do you have any more forgettables? Because I have a few.
No, I wanted to know what I was about to ask you. What else? So what's your list?
I only got a handful here.
Okay.
And they're kind of surprising. I told you about this one the other day when we were talking about it, because I'm on Twitter. Yeah, if you follow me on Twitter at New Jersey Nick, you probably know that I'm on Twitter like when my eyes are open to when they shut sometimes.
If you know me and you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I won't respond for about 6 days.
Right.
Or
Jack will
longer.
only be on Twitter when I tweeted him, and then you'll see him respond 2 days later. So, We Are Still Here is a movie poster I randomly saw online. And I'm like, wait a minute. We Are Still Here. I recognize this one. Was this movie about cannibal? Now, I am going to guess what this movie was, and you're going to tell me if it's right. First, I have the wrong guess, because I know that this is the wrong guess. I was like, was this movie made by the guy who made Stakeland, and it was about a family of cannibals who are cannibals for no reason, or some reason?
We Are What We Are.
We Are What We Are. See, I mixed that up with We Are What We Are. And I knew that one was wrong, because I was like, no, Lucky McGee didn't, or not Lucky McGee, who's it? Stakeland guy did not make this movie. So then I thought, I think I remember this movie. This is a movie that felt somewhat like The Devil Inside. It was a horror movie that takes place in the 70s or 80s, and it's about like people move into this home, but there are ghosts who still live there from the time before, and they were burned alive or something. And it was kind of a gritty, down-to-earth little ghost movie. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, the way you're describing it, I'm like, what?
Oh, so you didn't remember it either.
No, just your description of it threw me off.
Oh, so I said.
Yes, I know what
But
you're
I was
talking
close?
about. No, because I was thinking, what cannibal movie has... I don't. You're talking about We Are What We Are.
Right, but
I'm sorry. We Are Still Here. I'm sorry. I just
right. So We Are Still Here is a movie about like it was kind of a slow burn, down to earth ghost movie. Am I right?
I wouldn't call it a slow burn because
I don't remember it.
that was the movie that was mostly like a Lucio Fulci homage, let's call it.
Right.
Where the what is it? The kid. There were two different groups of parents. They were both all meeting at the house that they were just getting into, and then there was the old couple that lived in the town, and they were like, "You guys don't want to be here," and then those people, all the townspeople wanted to kick them out because it brought about the evil of the town, and they were trying to protect the evil of the town, but the evil of the town with the because they burned the whole family down in the house that they lived in, and then those people from that were burned down come to life because they had awoken them, and the one kid with his girlfriend was at the house, and then the ghost put his hands in the guy's eyes and tore his head open. Do you remember any of this at all?
like
Barbara Crampton.
Wow. So now in real time, you're kind of seeing how my memory of the movie is totally not what happened in the movie. Like that is a totally different movie than I just described, but I know we're talking about the same movie.
Then the door opens from one of the main characters, and when the door opens, her head explodes into the camera from a shotgun blast. You don't remember any of this?
Barely.
And then
I should
Barbara
have remembered
Crampton
the
stabs
gore.
somebody in the neck, and then blood just goes all over the place. Like
I remember a
like
burned up
Tenebrae.
body living. There was a burned up dude who like came back to life, and he was living behind a wall. And like they were complaining about the smell, that it smelled like a fire downstairs, but
Yeah.
they couldn't find the fire. And then like the dude like creeped out from behind like a wall, like he was walled in there.
And they sent Joe the electrician rather than Joe the plumber from the Beyond down there, and then I for one really enjoyed that movie.
You know, I remember really enjoying it, but I have to question if I actually did, if I can't remember somebody's head exploding.
You did
That sounds
because
amazing.
Yeah, because of all, there was just a massive blast of gore and blood all over the place toward just the end of the movie. That's when Larry Fessenden was all tied up and possessed and went crazy and shit. Remember?
Nope.
You might have to watch it again.
I may have to. So here's two other movies that I recall not really liking either of them.
Okay.
One of them, a couple of years ago, I had read in Cracked.com that occasionally they'll have an article that comes out every couple of months where they're like, here's 10 movies that are coming out soon that you've never heard of and you really should be more interested in. And one of them, the number one on the list, was Harbinger Down, a sci-fi horror movie that was going to have like all practical effects in it.
Yeah, it was from the people that did the practical effects for the Thing remake, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I think you're right. And I think it was even a Kickstarted movie.
Yeah. It's funny, Lauren, my girlfriend, was watching it on Netflix or something one night. And I said, all right, what are you watching? She goes, Harbinger Down. And I said, how is it? She's like, yeah, it's all right. She crashed halfway through. She was gone. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, I feel no sympathy for anybody. I'm like, maybe I should just watch something else. That's as much as I remember of it.
So Harbinger Down, I don't remember anything that happened in the whole movie. I don't remember any. Like, I feel like I must have fallen asleep at minute 2 and woken up at the end credits. But I know I actually watched the movie. I just can't. I can't even picture the movie. And I heard that title recently, and I was just like, what was that movie? Like, even like, all right, We Are Still Here. I had a moment where I could kind of describe what I thought it was. No, Harbinger Down, deleted from my brain, dude. Jumped out, gone. So if I ever see it again, I'd be like, oh, this is a different movie I've never seen before in my entire life. I don't understand it. The other movie that I can not remember almost anything of, I can kind of picture it a little, but not really. And this is one that I know a lot of people saw because it made $53 million. It was a found footage movie that came out in 2011. And you probably saw this movie, and you, the listener, probably do not remember it. The Devil Inside.
I still have yet to watch that.
Really? So you remember that you have never seen it?
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, Jack. If I ever see it, it will be like the first time I saw it again, because I know it was a found footage possession movie involving a documentary about the Vatican and their exorcism techniques, and the movie just deleted itself from my brain except for the ending, which is terrible.
What movie again?
The Devil Inside. Also, there were a few other movies that came out around that time period, also with the word devil in the title, such as The Devil Within, which
Devil's
you
Due.
may notice. The Devil Within and Devil's Due. So it kind of got mixed up with those movies. Either way, I'd say don't waste your time if you ever come upon it.
So
we did ask for listener answers on these questions, what movies you have forgotten and your experience with it. We asked both on our Twitter at Jack and Nick Show, and you can find us on Facebook under just Jack and Nick Horror Show. Type that into your little Facebook thing and maybe we'll pop up.
maybe we won't.
Jack, what the people on Facebook say about it?
Well, first off, we have our correction, not our. I'm not a pirate. Our friend Tor, who says, the question that we said was, just to give it some context, did you ever forget that you saw a horror movie? Like, you see the name of a movie, you have recollection but can't remember it at all. Maybe you buy a movie and realize you saw it halfway through. What is your forgettable? Tor said, I do this all the time. Most recent example was with 1981's Nightmares in a Damaged Brain. Maybe it was going by one of its alternate titles the last time I saw it. This time it took me about an hour to realize I'd already seen it. That is definitely a movie that is somewhat forgettable. I for one have it, and I remember key moments of it. But there are certain moments, like plot wise, where I'm like, I can really give a shit. It's very grindhousey movie. It's mostly known for saying that Tom Savini had done the special effects, and he denies that, and he said he'd never set foot on the set of this movie. Have you ever seen this, Nick?
No, I haven't. But one thing that Tor brings up that's kind of interesting is the multiple titles of movies, especially back then. Like nowadays, a title for a movie will pretty much be the same in all regions unless there's a copyright or a word you can't use, like ninja for some reason you can't use in parts of the world. Right. But I guess I know why you don't have to school me on it about Twitter. Okay, nobody cares. But there's been times that I can recall. I can't recall the exact movies we were talking about, but where you would, be talking about like some movie under a different title, and I'd be like, "Wait, I did see that. It's called something else," and then we'd be like, "Yeah, that's the movie."
That happened to me with The Beyond, actually.
Yeah.
When I was first getting into Fulci, I saw another disc called Seven Doors of Death, and I'm like, "Oh, what's this?" Another Fulci movie I haven't seen. I got home and watched it, and it's The Beyond. Son of a
but
bitch.
at least you remembered it. I guess it didn't take you a half hour to realize you had already seen it.
After the first 5 minutes, I was like, "Oh, crazy."
So next up,
Sean. Oh wait, well I could say his full name. Well, I can say Tor's too. That was Tor Larson, and his address is Australia. Sean Kelly, who we do a lot of segments for on this show. He
recently sent me a movie, and I have to watch whatever movie he recently sent me. I know it's called Confessions. It's still sitting up there, first thing on my list of things I want to watch, but I have had no real time since the other day. Maybe I had one chance and I totally watched something else, which I'll talk about later. Sorry, Sean, go.
That's okay. Sean has good taste. He said, I would always forget that movie Bless the Child, starring Kim Basinger, exists. Couldn't remember if I had actually seen it until I caught it on TV one day and Christina Ricci's head came flopping off in the subway. Then the memories came back. Pretty crappy. Now, I had never seen Bless the Child because it looked like garbage, but if Christina Ricci's head comes flopping off in a subway, that sounds pretty great.
Yeah, that is a movie that came out, I think, around the time period when I was watching everything that came out in the fucking world, but I can't remember, and I know I didn't see it. So I have also forgotten the movie exists, but for totally different reasons.
And it's nothing against Christina Ricci, but I think it would be interesting to see her head pop off. Why not?
That movie is rated 3% on Rotten Tomatoes. That sounds like a glorious movie.
Here's one I can't remember. I remember liking it. It wasn't as bad as everybody made it out to be, but I can't remember the name of the movie.
Great job.
It had Bradley Cooper in it.
Midnight Meat Train.
No, where bees attacked him and he fell out of a window.
No, I don't care.
See?
Are we sure it's not Midnight Meat Train?
It just hit me. Case 39 with Renee Zellweger. It's a good movie. It actually is a pretty decent movie. All right. Also, this is from Sean. I had seen Night of the Demons several times in my childhood and loved it, and had forgotten the name of it. I had been searching for the movie, and I came across Witch House, the Full Moon Pictures knockoff, and I thought I had found it. Holy shit, was I wrong? Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Witch House. Have you seen Witch House?
No. Not that I recall. but I'm pretty sure I never saw it.
I was thinking for some reason it was Witchery. That's the one that you had seen before, Linda Blair and David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, the one that was originally a part of the Italian continuation of Evil Dead, right?
The non-authorized continuation.
Yes, the unauthorized continuation of Evil Dead, as brought to you by the people of Italy's Hollywood.
Yeah.
Google that.
Well,
La Casa.
Witch House I had never seen, so from the sound of it, like I said, Sean does have good taste, so it's something that I could probably put on if I am cooking or something. All right. Then there's also Fear.com, which I always forget exists, and even now I can't remember if I've seen it or not. Also, The Watcher with Keanu Reeves. So, pretty much all the early 2000s horror thrillers.
Mm-hmm.
I never watched Fear.com because I just wasn't in the mood for a movie that had .com in the title. And The Watcher, I kind of wanted to see Keanu Reeves play a villain, but I just never got to it. How about you?
Yeah, that's one that I did I ever see The Watcher? Good question. Because again, I saw a lot of movies that came out between 2000 and 2002. Because my wife, when we were still dating at the time, worked at Blockbuster, and we just rented everything. So I may have seen that movie and just don't remember it. So maybe you got one that I also don't remember. I mean, I definitely remember that happened, but whatever. Anyway.
Well, Marie says, yep, all the time. I don't remember that one.
Thanks for answering.
Thank you for answering. I guess you didn't read the last part of it. It's okay.
Or she just forgets every movie. Like, just name a movie. I can't tell you if I saw it or not.
She actually did read the full set. She just forgot that we asked what is the forgettable. Okay.
Like Dory.
Thank you for responding, though, Marie. All right. Joshua. This is the one I wanted to bring up. Okay, Return of the Living Dead Part 2. For some reason, I never remember I've seen and had bought it a few times without realizing I already own it. Funny story. Not really funny. My dad had just unearthed a bunch of old VHS tapes from the 80s. And a friend of mine and I had just gotten home from watching Return of the Living Dead Part 2 in 1988. And we're talking about the movie, and the shit that we're saying doesn't sound like the movie that I remember seeing. Now, Return of the Living Dead 2 is the movie I wanted to mention before, where I saw it in a sold-out theater. And you can imagine how much fun it was to see a terrible movie like Return of the Living Dead 2 in a sold-out theater. It was a good time. People are laughing at it more than anything else. And that, like, it was a fun experience. So, later on, when it came to watching it again, I think I rented the tape, I don't remember. But I purchased the DVD, and the funny thing is that they changed the entire soundtrack on the original, they still haven't changed it because of some kind of copyright. My gosh, I don't remember. I'd say 90% of the movie when I watched it again for the first time since years prior to when it was on videotape. I don't remember any of it. Return of the Living Dead, I remember everything from the very first moment I saw it until now.
Right.
That movie, too, it's not good. It has... I still enjoy it for stupid reasons, but it's not a good movie. It's really bad. But there was one scene in particular where I remember it was like a suburban neighborhood, and a kid's father went outside and got he was putting out the trash, and then the zombies attacked him and tore his head open and were pulling his brains out. And I remember that happening. Haven't seen it ever since I saw or thought I saw that in the theater.
So, did you dream it?
No, I remember seeing it because it hit me so hard because I'm like, wow, this is like the suburbs. Zombies are breaking out in the suburbs. This is scary. When I was younger, because I'm still stupid, but anyway, it's funny though. It is a kind of forget. Nick, you've seen 2? Yes.
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
I think I like 2 more than 1.
Really?
Was it 2 more than 1 that I like? No, wait. I like 1 a lot more than 2.
Yeah, because the thing about 2, I read the Return of the Living Dead companion book, and they go into 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. 4 and 5 very briefly. But 2, what they were supposed to do was have the original cast recast in the sequel, just playing different parts. But whoever was running the show only wanted Tom Matthews and James Cameron. They didn't want anybody else. And from what the book was saying, that Don Calfa, who was in the original, was talking with them on the phone, and they were like, "Yeah, this movie's terrible." As they were making it, they were like just laughing and saying, "Don't even worry about not being in this movie because it's god awful." I don't know. And it has a lot of people that I like in it too. I mean, I still like it, but it's not one that I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta watch Return of the Living Dead too. Not as much as I used to when I was younger. So,
right.
Anyway, House 3, Mike Merriman says House 3, a.k.a. The Horror Show, but that was because as a kid I never knew it as a.k.a. House 3 and only knew it as The Horror Show. So when it was repackaged as part of the House franchise, I started watching it and was like, wait a second here, god damn it. It's true. When The Horror Show came out, Nick, have you seen The Horror Show?
No, I've not seen. I don't even know. I can't even tell you which House movies I've seen, if I've seen any of them.
Okay. Well, The Horror Show...
I know that there's like 7 now, right?
No, there's only 4.
Okay. If you say so.
There are. The Horror Show starred Brian James and Lance Henriksen. Brian James is no longer with us. He was a character actor that was in a lot of movies. Remember Tango and Cash?
Yes.
He's the one talking about the wanka. Yeah, the guy at the
I don't
ponytail.
remember that. I don't remember it that well.
Yeah.
I don't. I remember that it was a movie. Not even off the top of my head.
Robert Zadar. He's the guy that is battling or fighting them in the prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, back then I think that was a 1988 or 89 movie. I actually remember wanting to see it so bad because they interviewed Brian James and they said he was the next Freddy Krueger. And this was like hot off the heels of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. And when it came out, they were pushing this movie like crazy, like Horror Show. And that's all it was known as. Now, everywhere else in the world, it was known as House 3. Now, Sean Cunningham runs the show on the House series. Like, he's the producer of House and House 2, The Second Story.
Right.
So, when when the Horror Show came out, actually Scream Factory released the Horror Show on Blu-ray, and it's discussed quite a bit in length why it was called House 3 by Sean Cunningham on its commentary. And, he said that they were just trying to, get the branding from the other countries or something like that. It wasn't like a big deal, but over here it was like, no, let's call it something else. Because if we call it House 3, people will think it's another House movie. Something stupid. It sounds like we're making this shit up, but it's kind of silly the way they handle the marketing on it. But I remember I fucking really enjoy the shit out of the movie. It's the same type of plot as Shocker, where Brian James is a killer who gets electrocuted or put in an electric chair. Lance Henriksen's there. He's the cop that busts him, and now Brian James is coming back to kill Lance Henriksen and his family, and he keeps haunting him in his dreams. And one of the dreams that always is very vivid is they're having like Thanksgiving dinner or something like that, and Brian James's head is on a turkey, talking to him and trying to scare him. So, but yeah, I can understand people not knowing that it's a House 3 movie because Arrow just released the Region B version of the entire House franchise with all 4 movies, and Part 3, it just says House 3. It doesn't say the horror show.
Right.
So, yeah, people are kind of like, what the fuck? Like, isn't this that shitty movie that came out in the late 80s? I really enjoy the movie, though. I think it's I think it's a lot of fun. Man,
Yeah, and I feel like that's going to happen less over time as on-demand and streaming services pick up. There's less reason to call a movie by 1,800 different names,
Right. I don't know. I just really enjoy those movies. The second one is very, very childish, though. I love the title more than the movie. House 2, The Second Story. And it's a really ingenious title, because it's a house. The house is yeah. Okay.
It's a thing.
It's funny. All right, and lastly, on Facebook, and it's Bennett. Bennett says, I had really been looking forward to finally watching Burial Ground on Shudder. I finally had the chance a few days ago, so I turned it on, had the popcorn ready, and realized 1/3 of the way through, when the creepy quote-unquote kid first appears, that I had already watched it just a few weeks ago. Weird. Now, Burial Ground, have you seen it?
I recognize the name, but I have not seen that one.
I can't recommend that one enough to people. It's pretty... If you like zombie movies and you like slow-moving zombies, it's a good one. It kind of has has a Blind Dead kind of feel to it. The kid, quote unquote, from this movie, I'm trying to remember his damn name. I can't remember it, but he's not a kid. He's a let's say an adult human little person that's playing a 12-year-old. And during one of the scenes, he has a very Oedipus complex with his mom, and he's hugging his mom and wants to suck her teats.
Oh dear God!
But he might be zombified.
Okay.
Now, Nick, if you see this guy / kid, this guy playing the kid, he has one of the most disturbing faces. I gotta find out his name. As you're reading the Twitter responses, I will send you a link of this kid. I can't remember his goddamn name.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. What do you got on Twitter?
From Twitter, this is what you people told us. You people. Our Twitter followers, about movies that you had forgotten. From good old Stumpy, at Y2Stump. Any Resident Evil after the third. I know I've seen them, but I couldn't tell you shit about them. I still have to see Resident Evil 6, which I am stupidly looking forward to. I know I shouldn't, but I still want to see it. And part 4 was actually the second best Resident Evil movie. Still far second place below the first, but part 4 was pretty good. That's the one where her and her clone are doing Matrix stuff, jumping out of a window in slow-mo. Now you remember, right? Now you probably... part 5 is the one where they go Yeah, part 5 is the one where the whole world is ruined and they just go from like room to room in what I could only describe as the most linear plot a video game could have, except it's not. It's actually a movie, and each room that they go into is like a different danger room or something. And hang on, I have just been sent a photo from Jack Knapp. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to play on the show. 'Cause
Sorry, I just had to.
that's a great reaction face. We should, somebody should make a GIF of that. Just a dude. Oh man,
Peter
his
Bark.
eyes,
Peter Bark.
and his eyes bugging out of his face. So go and Google that if you can. But yes, Resident Evil. Go watch those movies too. Next up on Twitter, at Mick_boss. The first Purge, I've seen it, but when the series is brought up, Anarchy or Election Year just come to mind, and I forget the first one. There are many reasons for that.
Yep.
And obviously it's because what the Purge is in the second and third one. The first one had a great concept and no budget. So the entirety of the movie, even though the Purge is going on outside, all you see is the inside of this rich person's home and how people are trying to get in. And there's a little bit of social commentary in it, but it's not the same as either of the other two. Both movies, which I totally love and enjoy to a ridiculous degree, and I love The Purge as a concept, and it was not delivered upon in the first movie, and that's why, thank God, they made 2 more, and probably a 4th more, and supposedly a TV series coming soon, probably later this year. So at least all of that exists. I don't know how they're going to make a TV series. That seems kind of silly, but whatever. We'll find out later on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Purge, the it's okay to forget the first one. It's very similar to forgetting the first Friday the 13th. Amidst all the others that totally make sense and are all part of, the like when you think of Friday the 13th, you're not thinking of Jason's mom, you're thinking of Jason doing the killing, right?
Right.
Some people who are listening, maybe you never saw the original Friday the 13th and you don't know that Jason is not in it as you understand of him to be, I'm envisioning that maybe we have younger listeners out there. I have no idea. And on top of it, there's other movies with we've mentioned a million times. Halloween 3 completely doesn't fit into the Halloween series in a meaningful way, and therefore people delete it from their brains when they think about it that way. So I understand what Mick is saying here. Next up, our next to last comment from Twitter from @HeyBeardmon, otherwise known as Brennan Danger Darling, an old listener of ours. Not that he's old, he's younger than me, but he's been listening for a long time. Anyway, happens a lot, but never a movie I wish I would forget, like the Nightmare remake. That's kind of true, maybe. Well, I guess that's the way his brain works, but I remember a lot of crap, and I also forget a lot of crap. I've had some concussions over the years. That's probably what does it. Now, the last response from Twitter comes from @ScavengerEthic. Logically, I have no way of knowing. So thanks for not following us back or listening to our show and just answering a random tweet you found on Twitter there. Logically, I have no way of knowing if I forgot movies that I have forgotten. Dude, get out. So that's it, man. Those are so that's it.
Man, you went through that rapid fire, man.
There was only 4, and I blasted through them. I'm sorry. Did you want to talk about the Purge movies?
No, not really.
So
no, I think it is kind of smart what they did, though. In order to get the series going, they gave you a little tease of what's going on the outside, but gave you that other movie, home invasion movie. They're like, I went the outside. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, oh, okay, now we got your money, and now we can make that.
Right. So man, why don't we talk a little about what we have not had time to talk about recently, and then we'll say goodbye.
Sounds good.
Let's take a short break.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your responses. They definitely help out our show, and we like you people. You're nice people, and
Right.
we're your people. So there you go. All right, here you go.
So one movie that I saw recently that I really wanted to talk to you about is The Devil's Candy. Have you seen this one yet?
Nope.
This is a movie that just came out recently, in America at least. I think it showed first at TIFF like a year or two ago, but who cares? I had heard that this was the most metal movie of the year so far, which is kind of a silly statement because it's only April. And it did have a good depiction of metal in it, but it's not really a metal movie like Deathgasm was a couple of years ago. Basically, it is a satanic psychological thriller / possible supernatural / it's pretty much supernatural movie, and it is about a family consisting of an artist who is played by Ethan Embry, who's still alive and making movies here in the year 2017, and he is like a filthy metal inspired artist. He makes stuff when he's making good stuff, it kind of looks like album covers. When he's making stuff that he doesn't want to make, he makes murals that will hang in a bank or, your doctor's office or something like that, which is what he ends up doing. And his commissions pay for a house for him, his wife, and his daughter, who's like a teenager. They're going to move into this house. They got it for cheap. Why'd they get it for cheap? Because the old owner got murdered by their satanic possessed son, who may have a mental illness, or he may just hear the voice of Satan every now and then instructing him to kill, sacrificing for the greater good or some such. And it's a very good movie. It's directed by Sean Byrne, who also directed and just completely, I think he wrote and directed The Loved Ones from 2010, a movie I really love. And I know, Jack, you really love that one too. See? And this movie is just great fun. It has a feel to it like a movie that we brought up a little bit earlier, House of the Devil, the movie from Adam Wingard, an early movie of his that totally... Wingard, I don't know his name. I don't care. No, I do care. But it has a good feel to it and a good atmospheric horror movie. I really enjoyed a lot about it. I'm trying hard to not mention too much of the movie because I don't want to spoil it for you. Even though it is only 76 minutes long, it's like a breeze to watch. It is quick, and it kind of feels like they must have cut out what was more of a subplot to the movie, but because it's so concise, it's kind of like less is more. It ends pretty much in a good spot. Like, it doesn't linger, and like a lot of horror movies these days trying to meet that 90-minute or more mark, like no movie should be longer than Star Wars if it's going to be just a silly satanic movie. But that is one that I particularly enjoyed.
All right. One that I watched was They're Playing with Fire, which is a 1984 movie starring Sybil Danning. I don't know if that came out as... Sometimes I pronounce things funny.
It's okay. I never pronounce names right. Or no names.
It's if you're in the mood for trash and sleaze and slasher, well, this is the movie that you want to check out. It also has who is it? Andrew Prine, who's in a bunch of great terrible horror movies back in the 70s and 80s. Especially, he's great in Centerfold Girls, where he looks like Huey Lewis. But They're Playing with Fire is about a teacher-student affair that has there's another reason behind it, and then it turns into it's like a manipulation game, kind of like Cruel Intentions kind of thing, except somebody's framing this one to do something. I don't want to give away the plot because we don't like to spoil stuff on the show. But then it turns into a slasher movie. So it starts off as like a sleazy, saxophone-y type of sex thriller, and then turns into a slasher movie.
All of this sounds just fine with me.
It's a lot of fun. That's all I'm gonna say. It kind of has the feel of there's another movie that Tom Holland wrote, Scream for Help, that felt like a TV. It feels like a TV movie, but a real dirty one that has like full frontal nudity and violence in it, and just utter sleaze. And that's this type of movie. Definitely recommend that. And one that kind of ties into it. It's not really horror. Doesn't really tie into it at all. It's called Never Too Young to Die, which is not a horror movie necessarily, but Nick, it's something that you and I would definitely watch.
It's got a good title.
Yeah, it's got John Stamos as the star, and his last name is Stargrove. It's got, that's now my cat's name. We just got a cat, or 3 cats, but
we say Stargrove?
Stargrove, yes. Vanity, the late Vanity. It also stars Gene Simmons dressed in complete drag, and Robert Englund as well. Or as I like to call him, Robert Bartholomew Englund. Fascinating movie because it's just basic plot outline is Gene Simmons runs the Road Warrior type of motorcycle gang,
right.
But he's not really, but he is. I don't know, but basically he has a vendetta against Stargrove's father, Stargrove Sr., and he wants to kill Stargrove, and he succeeds in killing Stargrove Sr., and then Stargrove Jr. goes after Gene Simmons, and now Gene Simmons wants Stargrove dead. So that's it. The way the movie plays out, it plays out like they're all in one movie, but everybody else around them is somewhere else. So it's like they're playing. It's like little kids playing a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how it feels. It's ultra violent, nothing too gory, but it's mostly gunshots and stuff. But definitely fun movie though. It's a lot of fun. It's just a cheese fest. So that's all I got. What else you got, Nick?
I do love ultra violence, by the way. I put that on the top of the list of shit Nick likes. Ultra violence.
Yes.
A movie that was not ultra violent that I saw just the other day when I should have been watching the movie Sean Kelly sent to me in the mail called Confessions, which I did not watch. And I will watch, Sean, I promise. Instead, I watched the movie Split, which came out earlier this year from M. Night Shyamalan, I think. I don't really know. But the point is, I saw the trailer, and I thought the movie would not be that great. I thought at first, when I saw the trailer, I was like, yeah, that looks cool. That looks cool and different and unpredictable, and maybe it will be. And then I was like, I had that Shyamalan factor kicked in, the M. Night feeling of this isn't very good, which you felt with many of his movies because you were a thinking human. And, the first couple of movies he made were good, right? And that's pretty much what he's been coasting on for 17 or 18 years now. And all of a sudden, he made The Visit, which I didn't see. Did you see The Visit?
Yes. I really enjoyed it.
That was a found footage movie where like the kids go out and meet the grandparents and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I didn't see that one, but I heard it was decent.
It is decent. It has some moments in it that just make you want to put your hand and smack it against your forehead. Mm-hmm. But the rest of it is good.
This one though, Split, Uh, Pretty good all throughout, and I really enjoyed it. It was unpredictable. It has James McAvoy playing a character who is has dissociative identity disorder, otherwise known as having multiple personalities, and that idea is taken to the extreme. Normally, I don't like movies where like mental illness is kind of the horror of the movie, but obviously this was taken to such fantastical levels that it was not based on actual mental illness in any way that is discernible. Well, I mean, it was, but it wasn't. It was clearly like a fantastical extrapolation of that. Whereas, like, what bothers me is when they put just regular mental illness in a movie, and they're like, "Here it is. Look at this crazy person in a wheelchair," and you're supposed to be afraid of it. When it's like, dude, there are crazy people in wheelchairs. Maybe I don't have to be. I don't know. Yeah, remember if you remember, there's a callback to an earlier episode. You can go listen to it next on the top 5, bottom 1 from 2016 are our favorite horror movies of the year. My least favorite from last year was They Look Like People, and it was a movie about. Yeah, listen, it's my next forgettable movie that I'm going to be like, did I see that? But it was a movie about a dude who's like schizophrenic, and schizophrenia itself was portrayed as the scary thing of the movie, right? And it really bothered me that it was kind of I felt like it just wasn't handled with care in a way. It wasn't handled with care, and it also wasn't like so bonkers that it was clearly not a reflection of real mental illness. You know, it was too close to the real thing. Whereas in this movie, it is completely over the top ridiculous what happens in it. And I love when a movie goes over the top ridiculous. And you cannot go into this movie and tell me that you pretty much saw what was coming, because you would be a liar. You would be a liar. A filthy liar. Also, the movie does call back to some of his other better movies, and I like whenever you create a shared universe in movies, even if it's ones that people kind of forgot, you know? Like, I love that in Quentin Tarantino movies when you realize that, like, characters from True Romance might even be related to things that go on in Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs, you know?
Right.
I love that, and those are all great movies, and, you know, M. Night's movies are not all great, but I keep thinking about how they might all take place in the same place, same universe, except for Signs, because that couldn't have taken place in the same universe, and maybe Avatar didn't, because that wasn't like his idea. But Devil could have happened in this universe real easy. He didn't direct that one, but that's another one that he touched, and it didn't turn to shit. So. Well, I was pretty impressed with Split, though. I totally recommend it. I think at the end of the year, it's definitely going to be on my top 5 of the year for 2017. It's going to be hard to beat. I hope you see that one soon, Jack, so that we can discuss it, maybe even in full on the show if you feel the need to. But okay. I'd like to hear your opinion on that one for sure.
Yeah, I just picked it up because I had it pre-ordered. I forgot that I pre-ordered it because it came out.
Forgotten movies.
No, I just forgot because it was like, oh yeah, by the way, this movie's coming out next month on Blu-ray, and it just came out like a month or two ago, right?
It was in the theater in January, and then it just came out, I think, this past week.
Yeah. On
demand.
All right, so whatever. So yeah, I will be watching that soon, and hopefully we can do a show about it if I think it's worthy. Anyway. Dreamstalker.
That's a good name.
Dreamstalker is part of a double bill on a DVD from Intervision, which is a Seven Films subdivision of mostly shot on video movies or shoot on video movies. And there's a whole bunch of these shot on video movies that we should do a whole shot on video show, Nick.
Yeah, you've said that before.
Yeah, we should. But anyway, these two, one of them is Dreamstalker, which is about a girl who meets a guy and they fall in love, and the guy is a BMX dirt bike rider or some shit. He dies, and then he's stuck in his bike outfit. Like, he looks like one of the kids at the bike shop in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He just keeps returning after he dies, his ghost or zombie being or whatever, and killing people that she falls in love with, and those around her. It's a very, very weird movie. It's terribly shot, god awful, shot on video. But like, it's one of those that when I put the disc in, it said subtitles on or off, and I'm like, what is this, foreign? But it's not foreign. It's just that they didn't know the concept of microphone. It's kind of like it sounds like this, like some podcast you might have listened to before, but like this here. Bear with me, Nick. So Nick, I watched Horror High. Have you seen it?
No, I have not. Hang on, car.
That's kind of how it was. Like, I couldn't hear a word they were saying. It's like two people are talking on a lawn, but the cars behind them are overpowering the speakers where the camera is, or the microphone. So I hear, and like, I can't. So I put the subtitles on, and I understood the movie. Not so great, but it has some great moments to it. I kind of like checked out a little bit here and there because it's something I watched right when I got home from work, and I'm like, okay, I got about an hour and 10 minutes, so this is perfect. So, the next movie on the disc is called Death by Love, which I really enjoyed even more. It has a really interesting plot, and I can sum this one up easier. It's about a guy who may or may not be a newscaster or weatherman or whatever. They don't really go into it because they can't afford it. But it's this guy, whenever he falls in love with a girl and has sex with her or anything, the girl will end up, not the same girl, mind you, a bunch of girls, they end up dead, and they end up drained of their blood. Sort of like a vampire movie. So the police start investigating this guy, and then they find out that there's a classmate of his that he had years and years ago that is obsessed with him, and the guy who's obsessed with him thinks he's the devil. And that's the basic plot of the movie, and it does have a really cool twist. I really enjoyed it, and it's one of those movies that if they had shot it on film and hired good actors and actually used a microphone and had good special effects and good music and score and a credit sequence and visual effects and a good caterer and, you know, a good PA and like everything, it would actually be a really decent movie. It has a really and a lot of rewrites for the script. Like everything. If everything in this movie would be redone, it would be wonderful. But you're dealing with shot on video, which you have to accept. And that's why a lot of times I kind of don't accept, well, you know, they couldn't have... This movie, I'm going to give it a pass because they couldn't afford to do this. No. Shot on video is the barest of bones you could possibly do. And you know exactly what you're getting into when you're doing or watching a shot on video, but also making one too. You know that you're making shit. You just know it. So there's no need to call it something that it's not. And that's a problem a lot of, you know, like independent movies, independent filmmakers these days have, where they have that big idea and are trying to put it on this little project that they can't afford, so they try to cut corners, and they go, well, we had to cut corners because we couldn't afford it. These guys are like, fuck corners. Like, we can't afford a fucking microphone. So you're going to have to listen to or read subtitles for half of this piece of shit that we made, but you're still going to enjoy it. There's something, it's very, hard to grasp. What about shot on video? I just absolutely love. It's just like that one I mentioned to you a few episodes ago, which was probably like a year ago. It's called 555, which I loved, and it's another one that was same situation here. It was Intervision as well, and it was just fascinating to watch this piece of shit movie. And these terrible, dude, wooden. It's like they got cigar store Indians and put them in this movie and made their mouths move. That's how the acting is in pretty much all these movies. I'm surprised that there isn't like a massive amount of people that love these. And I'm sure there are. I'm sure some of our listeners do, but I don't hear too many people mention them. I mean, we don't even mention them. We hardly even mention them on that other show that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, but it's because it is such a weird niche thing, and also like it just looks like garbage, you know.
Right.
And it turns people off just from the aesthetic alone. It's hard to explain. It is hard to explain the appeal of such things. It's kind of like liking old video games, where it's kind of got that whole retro feel, and also you get to see people work within very stringent limitations.
Well, yeah. Well, and the funny thing about those is, I mean, they lasted all the way up to like the 90s, like before, like mini DV and all that came into play. People were still using VHS or like, the mini recorders, but they still had that terrible aesthetic to them.
Right.
So, I don't know, man. Something about them, it just they have such charm, and it's like watching. You know what? That's what it is for me, in a sense. It's like watching your friends put together a movie, and they're like, "Here, we're gonna watch this over the weekend at my friend's house. They just made this movie." And you watch it, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is terrible," but there's still something fun about it. I don't know. We'll talk about shot on video stuff later. But that's all I got, Ned. Do you have anything else?
I don't really have anything else to talk about tonight. I think we'll just have to, cross your fingers out there, children. That maybe Jack and Nick will have another show soon.
Yes. Cross everything you have.
I'm waiting.
I'm waiting. Well...
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to follow us, please follow us on Twitter. I'm at New Jersey Nick. Jack is at Jacob K666, or follow the show at Jack and Nick Show. Or if you use Facebook because you're a grandma, you can go and look up Jack and Nick Horror Show and look us up there. Send us pictures of your cat grandma and your Minions memes or whatever else you're posting. Or if you like us, we're apparently on. We have a Tumblr. If you're a teenager who doesn't go on Facebook because you're not a grandma, but you're like a backwards kid who's just like, I ain't got no friends but Jack and Nick and their horror show. I gotta follow them on the Tumblr. And we don't have a Snapchat because we're both middle aged at this point. Well, I mean, I feel middle aged. I feel like I probably passed the middle a couple of years ago. Let's be honest.
If we got Snapchat, can I get that and send you dick pics?
No. No. That's not. No.
You don't want Dick Miller or any of the other famous Dick Clark?
So look for us on Twitter now for Jack's ironic dick pics. Or
the only last for a second. Yeah, I have to send them. No, I don't know how to use Snapchat. That's not a thing for me.
Yeah, because we were old. But then, so am I. Because, Snapchat, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know what this shit is, man.
You open up Snapchat, you're like, oh.
No, don't be bringing this problem on me.
Oh.
Don't put that evil. So, there's that. But one place we are is on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube. You can
find us everywhere. iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher. You
Stitcher's
can find us
where
on
I listen.
Podomatic. You can listen to us on Tumblr or on Twitter, on Facebook, on IMDb, on... I'm done.
Are you on? You're on IMDb. I'm not on IMDb.
Yeah, I am on there. Still,
right.
that's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. Yeah. You know,
Could be.
they have disabled the message boards on there, but you know, I
Really?
really hope that they disable comments on YouTube.
Nah. We get good comments actually on our videos. We shouldn't even talk shit at all.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in general, because a lot of stuff I look at turns into like somebody being racist just to be an asshole.
Oh yeah, if there's enough comments on anything on YouTube, it devolves into it. You reach the point every time where someone calls someone else Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Always. So I would love that if that would happen on one of our videos, which are just our audio podcast. If somebody could go on there and call Jack or I Hitler. No, wait. Call someone
Please
else who
don't.
comments Hitler.
Please
Get him
don't.
real good, okay?
All right, thank you very much for listening, Nick. We'll do this again in 2019.
Okay. I'll be looking forward to it on the blood moon of 2019.
Good night, everyone, or goodbye. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.